Hello friends, welcome to NEXT IAS. Myself Dr. Prashant Singh. I will discuss the questions which were asked in Civil Services Mains Examination 2020-22 in paper 1. I will discuss basically the questions of climatology and world geography. The first question which was asked in the Civil Services Mains Examination 2020-22 in paper 1 from geography was, describe the distribution of rubber producing countries and indicate the major environmental issues faced by them. You were supposed to write the answer of this question in 2050 words, and total marks allocated to question were 15. So answer to this question was supposed to be given in 3 parts: introduction, body, and conclusion. The introduction part will include the significance of rubber and the processes of manufacturing of rubber, means how rubber is produced. In the body part, one was supposed to write about the areas where rubber is produced and various major environmental issues faced by these areas. And then in conclusion, one was supposed to write about the sustainable rubber production practices. So let's briefly talk about the introduction part. So introduction part to that question. In introduction, first of all, one was supposed to write about what is significance of rubber. So rubber is a versatile material which is used for manufacturing of tires, the hose and pipes, the caps like which are used in swimming pools, and so many other types of household items. The rubber is produced in 2 ways. One is natural rubber and second is synthetic rubber. The natural rubber is produced from a liquid called latex, which is obtained from the rubber tree. So from rubber tree, a liquid is obtained that is called as latex, and from that latex, by processing the latex, the natural rubber is produced. And mostly there are so many varieties of trees which produce the latex having high concentration of rubber, but most of the natural rubber production comes from Hevea brasiliensis, correct? That's the main tree supplying the natural rubber. And then second is synthetic rubber. The synthetic rubber is produced from petrochemicals through polymerization processes. The natural rubber production comes from those countries, those areas where rubber plantations are located, and synthetic rubber is mainly produced in the port locations where petrochemical industries are located. Now, after introduction, the body of the answer will include the areas of rubber production and environmental problems associated with rubber production. So what are the areas? First, you are supposed to write about natural rubber production areas. So there are 4 major regions in the world where natural rubber is produced. One is South Asia and adjoining parts of China, Southeast Asia and adjoining parts of China. This is the largest rubber producing region in the world. The main producers of natural rubber in this region are Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, Myanmar, Vietnam. These are Philippines. These are main rubber producing countries in the Southeast Asia. And China, that also produces significant amount of natural rubber in the world. Second region is South Asia. In South Asia, the main producers are like India and Sri Lanka. India is among the top 7 rubber producing countries in the world. The third region is Latin America. The main countries in Latin America are Brazil, Cambodia, Peru, Guatemala and Mexico. These are main countries, and Colombia is largest producer of rubber from this region. And the last fourth main region is Western Africa. In Western Africa, the main natural rubber producing country is Cameroon and Ivory Coast. But some natural rubber is also produced in, Liberia. So these are the main areas where natural rubber is produced. Now synthetic rubber, which is produced from polymerization of petrochemicals, that's mainly produced in countries like China, US, countries of Western Europe, the countries of East Asia like Japan and Korea, correct? They are the top producers of synthetic rubber. Clear? Now, what are problems associated with production of natural rubber and synthetic rubber? During the processing of latex in case of natural rubber and the petrochemicals in case of synthetic rubber, lot of waste is generated. The organic materials like volatile organic compounds, they are released into atmosphere. The biomolecules like the saccharides, the other type of compounds, they are released into water bodies. Now these pollutants which are released by the rubber producing units into air or water cause environmental degradation. The organic molecules which are released into water bodies, they increase the biological oxygen demand, chemical oxygen demand and reduce the availability of dissolved oxygen. Similarly, the volatile organic compounds and harmful gases like SO2, NO2, correct, into atmosphere, they cause air pollution and negatively impact the human health. That's one of the impact of these rubber producing units. Second, in case of natural rubber production, the forests are cleared for development of rubber plantations. The rubber plantations, they are one of the type of extensive agriculture requiring large parcels of land. So expansion of rubber plantations in the equatorial and tropical areas of world has accelerated the pace of deforestation. Due to rapid deforestation, the habitats of wildlife, they are shrinking, and that is contributing to loss of biodiversity in these areas. Now, for example, Cambodia, according to one report, Colombia in last 2 decades lost around 2 million hectares of forest cover, which is around 25% of total forest cover in the country. And out of this 2 million hectares of forest cover loss, 25% was caused due to expansion of rubber plantation. Correct? So deforestation, loss of biodiversity, they are consequence of expansion of rubber plantations. Other than that, the rubber cultivation involves monoculture practice. And whenever there is monoculture, there will be intensive use of pesticides and fertilizers. The pesticides and fertilizers find their way to water bodies through runoff, and in water bodies they reduce oxygen level and create dead zones. Correct? So these are the negative impacts, environmental impacts associated with rubber production. Now, question is not about only the environmental impact of rubber plantation or rubber production. Question is about the environmental issues related to rubber production. Means you have to talk about not only how rubber plantations affect environment, but also how environmental change, climate change is impacting the rubber plantations. So according to IPCC report, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report, in last few decades, the frequency and severity of extreme weather events has increased due to global warming and climate change. The rubber plantations, they need evenly distributed rainfall. Because of climate change, the rainfall pattern is getting uneven and uncertain, and that has not only reduced the productivity of rubber plantations, but also increased the risk of various diseases like fungal diseases. Correct? So the body of the answer will include the areas where rubber is produced and the environmental issues. In conclusion, we can write that for the global demand for rubber is continuously increasing because of increasing demand of vehicles and other products. So we need rubber, but at the same time we should adopt sustainable rubber production practices in order to maintain balance between economic growth and environment conservation. Okay, so that will kind of conclude your answer. Okay, friends. Now the second question was mention the significance of straits and isthmus in international trade. In this question also, the answer will have three parts: introduction, body and conclusion. In introduction, you are supposed to write about what are straits and what are isthmus. So strait is a navigable waterway which is naturally created and which combines or which joins two large bodies of water like oceans or seas. Correct? For example, Strait of Malacca. Strait of Malacca joins the eastern part of Indian Ocean, that is Andaman Sea, with the western part of Pacific, that is South China Sea. Similarly, there is a Strait of Gibraltar, the Strait of Gibraltar that connects Atlantic Ocean with the Mediterranean Sea. So there are so many straits. They are basically the connecting link between two oceans or seas. Similarly, isthmus. Isthmus is a narrow tract of land connecting two continents or two large land masses and separating two oceans or seas. Correct? So imagine like this is North America and South America. Between North and South America, there is a narrow piece of land. Correct? So that is Panama Isthmus. Correct? Similarly, between Africa and Europe, in fact Africa and Asia, correct. So here also between the Red Sea and Mediterranean Sea, there is a narrow piece of land which is called as Suez Isthmus. Correct? So these narrow small pieces of land which connect to large land masses are called as isthmus. So that's your introduction to the answer. Now, what will be the body of answer? You are supposed to talk about economic or trading significance of strait and isthmus. See, straits are the connecting link between the oceans and seas. They connect the marine trade routes, and by connecting the marine trade routes, the straits support global marine navigation and trading. Around more than 95% of global trade happens through oceanic route. So, for global trading, the straits which connect the oceanic routes are very important. Correct? So, this is how you have to connect the strait with global trading and navigation. Then after that, you are supposed to give few examples of straits which are playing important role in global trading. So, you can use multiple examples like strait. Let me explain with the map. So, let me explain with the help of map. Okay, so now we can show some of the main straits, like Strait of Malacca is here. The Strait of Malacca connects Pacific Ocean with Indian Ocean. So, the most of the trade of Japan, China and other Eastern and Southeast Asian countries happens through Strait of Malacca. Around 25% of global marine trade in oil, fuel oil, petroleum oil, that happens through Strait of Malacca, correct? Similarly, Strait of Hormuz, Strait of Malacca, Malacca Strait, then it is the Strait of Hormuz. So, Strait of Hormuz is the main connecting link between oil producing Gulf region and rest of the world, means world market is connected to oil producing Gulf region through Strait of Hormuz, correct? So, most of the trade in the oil, crude oil, that happens through Hormuz Strait. Similarly, between Red Sea and Arabian Sea, there is Strait of Babel, Mandeb, and Mandeb, that connects the Gulf countries or West Asian countries with Europe and American market. Most of the crude oil which is imported by Europe or North America from Gulf states, that passes through this strait, Strait of Babel, Mandeb. Similarly, Strait of Gibraltar, that is the main connecting link or only natural link between Atlantic Sea and the Mediterranean region. So, trading between Mediterranean region and the US or Europe, Northwest Europe, that happens through this route. So, Northwest Europe to Mediterranean region, North America to Mediterranean region, this connection is through Gibraltar. Similarly, Strait of Dover connects Atlantic Ocean with North Sea. So, North Sea region, the countries surrounding the North Sea, they are connected to global market through this strait. between Black Sea and Aegean Sea. Aegean Sea is basically eastern part of Mediterranean Sea. So Black Sea and Aegean Sea, between them, there are, Turkish straits. Turkish straits like Strait of Bosporus and Strait of Dardanelles. These two straits basically, they connect Black Sea with Aegean Sea or Eastern Mediterranean Sea. The countries of Eastern Europe and Central Asia are connected to the rest of the world through this Black Sea Mediterranean route. And that's why the Straits of Bosporus and Strait of Dardanelles, including Marmara Sea, which lies between them, is main connection between Russia, Eastern Europe like Ukraine, and rest of the world. These straits were in news recently because Ukraine requested Turkey to block these straits and to not allow passage of any defense vessel through these straits. Correct? That's why these straits were in news. So you were supposed to talk about the economic importance of these straits. The crude oil of Russia and Eastern Ukraine that flows through the rest of the world through these straits. The food grains like wheat are exported from the Eurasia region to Europe through this strait. And Ukraine is one of the main steel exporter in the world. So the steel of Ukraine reaches to European countries through this strait. Correct? So that's about the important straits of the world. Correct? Malacca Strait, Hormuz, Bab el-Mandeb, Bosporus, Dardanelles. Okay, this is how you were supposed to talk about economic importance of strait. Then Isthmus. Isthmus, as I told you, is a narrow land corridor between two large continents. Straits are the ideal geographical sites for construction of canals to connect the maritime trade routes. Like Atlantic trade route was connected to Pacific trade route through Panama Canal. Correct? So Panama Canal, which was constructed through this isthmus, connected to marine trade routes, and that facilitated globalization of trade and economy. Similarly, the Suez Canal was constructed through the Suez Isthmus, which lies between Africa and Arabia. This Suez Isthmus is very important because it connects Asia with Western countries. So all the trade between Asia, most of the trade between Asia and Western Europe and US, that happens through this route. Correct? This Northern Indian Ocean, Bab el-Mandeb, and Suez Canal, Gibraltar. Correct? This is how. Okay. Now recently there was a news that Chinese companies are planning to cut or to construct a canal through Kra Isthmus. Kra Isthmus lies in Thailand. Correct? There is a narrow corridor of Thailand which connects Indochina Peninsula to Malaysia. So that through that narrow corridor, the companies were planning to construct a canal in order to avoid making round around Malaysia. So the plan is to reduce the distance. That's why they are planning to construct a canal. That's why this Kra Isthmus was in news since last few years. So that's the body of answer. In conclusion, one should write about the strategic significance of straits and isthmus. Strategically, the straits and canals are very important because in the wake of war, the straits may be choked to block the trade. So sometimes the hostile countries, they control the straits and they block the trade to pressurize the other country. Correct? Similarly, one more thing, there is the threat of piracy in the strait areas. So strait areas are narrow areas. The pirates, like Somali pirates. So Somali piracy, that is near Bab el-Mandeb Strait. Correct? That is another threat to world trade. So straits are strategically and economically important natural waterways connecting the oceans. So that was your answer for this second question. Now the third question, question number 17, which was asked in paper 1 2022 was, troposphere is a very significant atmospheric layer that determines weather processes. How? So again, the answer will have three parts: introduction, body, and conclusion. Introduction will include the description of troposphere. So troposphere is the lowermost layer of atmosphere, which has around 99% of atmospheric water vapor and particulate matter, and more than 75% of atmospheric gases. In troposphere, temperature decreases with height, which is called as normal lapse rate, and that happens at the rate of 6.5 degrees Celsius per kilometer. That is introduction of troposphere. Then body will include how troposphere is important for weather processes. See, there are two aspects of troposphere which control the weather processes. First is its composition, and second is, the lapse rate in troposphere. As I told you, around 99% of atmospheric water and particulates are concentrated in troposphere, and this water vapor when condenses leads to formation of clouds and rainfall, correct? So due to presence of most of its water vapor, the troposphere is responsible for cloud formation and rainfall on the surface of Earth. One more thing, the water vapor in atmosphere helps in redistribution of heat from hot areas to cold areas. Water vapor can retain some heat, that is called latent heat, and along with winds, when water vapor moves from one area to another area, latent heat is also transferred. So water vapor helps in moderation of temperature. If water vapor is not there, the thermal gradient on the surface of Earth will be quite high. The temperature difference between equator and pole will be high. But water vapor, by redistributing the heat, reduces the temperature range and thermal gradient on the surface of Earth, correct? The second main constituent of troposphere is greenhouse gases. The greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, they trap a portion of outgoing terrestrial radiation and keep the lower layers of atmosphere and Earth warm, correct? So temperature conditions in the troposphere, in the lower layers of atmosphere, they are influenced by presence of greenhouse gases. Higher concentration of greenhouse gases will make an area warm, and low concentration will make an area cold. Okay. Similarly, particulates, multiple types of particulates are present in troposphere. The particulates facilitate, condensation of water vapor. The water vapor will not condense if hygroscopic nuclei or particulates are not there, correct? So cloud formation and precipitation is supported by certain types of particulates in the atmosphere, like salt particles. This is another significance of tropospheric constituents. The particulates also, regulate the heat budget of place. Most of the particulates, they reflect back a portion of incoming solar radiation and exert dimming or cooling effect on the Earth's surface. Similarly, clouds. The clouds in the atmosphere, they are mainly present in the troposphere, they also regulate heat budget of Earth. The higher clouds, called cirrus clouds, they exert greenhouse effect by retaining the outgoing terrestrial radiation near the ground. And the low clouds, the dark thick clouds in the lower and middle atmosphere, they exert cooling or dimming effect by reflecting back a portion of incoming solar radiation. So these constituents which are present in troposphere, they influence the meteorological processes. Second is lapse rate in the troposphere. The troposphere is heated by the terrestrial radiation from below, and that's why lower layers of troposphere are warmer under normal condition. They are warmer than the upper layers. This warming of lower troposphere due to terrestrial radiation brings instability in the atmosphere, and due to atmospheric instability, ascending air currents are created. These ascending air currents cause condensation, cloud formation and rainfall. They also contribute to formation of storms like cyclones and thunderstorms. Okay. So, in this question, one was supposed to write about composition and lapse rate in troposphere. And in conclusion, we can write that human activities like burning of fossil fuels, deforestation have modified the composition of troposphere. We have increased concentration of greenhouse gases, correct? And because of that, the meteorological processes are changing. The risk of extreme weather events like thunderstorms, cloudburst, cyclone, etc. has increased and is continuously increasing due to global warming and climate change. That was conclusion to this question. Okay friends, so that was how you were supposed to approach these three questions. Thank you.